Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. As most of you know, or some of you know, or maybe none of you know, last week I was in Columbus, Ohio for Origins Game Fair 2022, and I had a blast. It's not often that I get to go to a convention as a pedestrian and just enjoy myself. Usually for the last 8 years at least, and then for a good section of my early times going to conventions, I was I worked, so constantly just manning a booth or doing events in the evening. Like for the last 8 years, I maybe get to play a single game during a convention. It's very rare that I get to play any games. This time, that's all I did was play games. I went with my friend Ben, who has also been volunteering for Portal Games since 2014. And we just decided we were going to play whatever we could. So we traveled around the hall, looked at demo tables, sat down, played whatever, bought a few games, played those, played games at night. We just played games for 3 straight days. And it was great. It was really, really good. Part of it was, I haven't really told you much about this, but lately I've been trying to put away the critic and just be receptive to, be more positive, be more polite, be more open to the idea that my thoughts and opinions aren't really valuable to anybody else. And I could tell you what I like and don't like about things, but I want to try things that I would generally ignore. And so a lot of the games we played this week were games that I would have never played had you suggested it. I've just been like, nah, I'll go home. I'm not going to play that game. And we played a lot of those, and I had a really good time. So I thought I'd give you a quick rundown of the games that I played. And the only way I have, I didn't make a list for this. I just have pictures of all the games that I played on my phone. And some of them I don't have on here. Some of them I have on my camera because I forgot to take a picture with my phone. I'll try to remember those as I go through this. But the first thing was a game called Knights of the Hound Table. It's a little like battling deck builder, 2-player deck builder. The theme sold me. The idea was that it was these dogs belonged to 2 factions, the red team and the blue team. But then there was they all forgot who they belonged to, and since they're colorblind, they don't know, and now they're battling it out. And I was like, this is really fun. And so I picked it up, played it twice now. It's okay. It's not, it's okay. It has some charm, but it's also kind of clunky. But, I'm not disappointed in it. Then we played Night Cage, or The Night Cage. This one was interesting, but I probably wouldn't play it again. I felt you basically are, trying to find keys to unlock a gate in this infinitely vast cavern, which means that when you get to the edge of the board, you wrap around to the other side, and that whole time you're lighting up tiles as you move, but as you move away, they disappear, and the cavern's moving, so when you go back, it might not be the same. It's an alright game. It's a little long for what it is, and keeping track of what's lit up and what's not lit up was kind of frustrating. I don't know that I would ever play it again, but I'm glad that I tried it. Lawyer Up was a surprisingly pretty cool little 2-player deck builder. Is it a deck builder? I mean, I guess it is. You add cards, but it's a 2-player game that simulates, a court case. And there's 12 jurors, and you're trying to sway them to your side so that when the game ends, if you have the majority, you win. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really clever game. It uses iconography to restrict play. So you play a card, and the icons on that card, at least one of them has to match the icons on the card above it. And so you really have to plan out how you're going to play these cards, and it really restricts your play each turn. So I actually really enjoyed that game a lot. Mountain Goats, it was fine. Like, roll dice, move a goat, king of the hill. I described it as a less interesting version of Can't Stop, and that's kind of true, but I think for some people it'd be more interesting. I think for some people it's a little bit more, you're getting more out of it as opposed to just rolling dice and moving some things up a track. There's points in your set collection, and so you're getting a little bit more out of it. But for me, I would rather just play Can't Stop. So that's where I left my review of that one. Played Fjords, which I found it amusing that the rules to Fjords literally prohibit you from making a fjord. So that's fun, but it's a tile laying game that's played in two phases. One is building the map, and two is putting out your Vikings. Kind of Go-like, where you're trying to build areas of your color, like, and you get points for having basically cutting other people off and building large groups of your Vikings. I found it to be interesting. I guess there's more to it than what we demoed. We just demoed putting tiles down, then putting Vikings down. I guess there's other rules and stuff that you can do, but all we did was that basic game. And I thought it was fairly interesting. And then we stood up and went over and played Acropolis. And Acropolis was way more interesting than Fjords. Acropolis I found to be very, very, very interesting. It is a tile laying game where you have these tri-sided tiles. And it's kind of like a between two cities where each district of the tile, whether it's a shop or a consumer or a recreational or whatever, those all have different rules on how they score. So if you want to form a large group of this one, but this one wants to be by itself, this one doesn't care where it is. But also height matters, so if you can stack them, they get more points as they go up. I found it to be very clever. We ended up playing it like 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 times. I really enjoyed that game, and I wish I would have bought it. But by the time we got there, Ben bought the last copy. There was a guy buying in front of us, and then Ben bought it. I was like, well, I'll get it some other day. No big deal. Fun game. Destinies. We got to play the entire first scenario of Destinies. They just let us stay there and play it. And I enjoyed the experience. I really did. And when we left the table, if you don't know what Destinies is, it's an app-driven game, kind of an exploration adventure game. You've got a character, you've got stats that you can move around, you can get equipment, you can, complete quests, that sort of stuff. And when I left the table, I said, I feel like I just played a computer game that happens to have some cardboard that goes with it, as opposed to playing a board game that it has an app. I felt like most of the game existed on this app, and you were just touching the screen constantly and reading stuff off the screen. There wasn't a whole lot of cardboard going on. And I thought that was a negative when I left the table, but the more we talked about it, the more I realized just how much I really enjoyed that game. It was a really engaging experience. The only problem I had with it was the miniatures were about this big, and they'll show you the miniature on screen that you're supposed to put on the board, and you're like trying to find that gray miniature amongst these little teeny tiny gray miniatures. That was the only problem I had. I wish that maybe the miniatures had different colors on them or something like that. But, overall, yes, more of the game exists in the app than on the table, but I don't think that's a bad thing for this case. Like, I felt like I was playing a really solid game. I really enjoyed that experience a lot. Played a game of Keepers, which is basically Dixit mixed with Say Anything. So somebody says a word, you each hand in 2 cards, we shuffle them up, and then vote on which card is most like or most unlike that word. Really simple game. I thought the photography on the cards was gorgeous. Probably going to pass. I don't know that I will play it more unless somebody brings it. If somebody were to bring it, I would take it, but it wasn't something I was going to pick up at the show. Factory Funner was this neat little factory building game where you have machines that take in ink and produce colors of ink, and you're trying to pipe them all together to get big payouts. And it was a little bit brain bendy, but also light at the same time, and I enjoyed the experience. Again, not something that I'm going to purchase to play. I wasn't super excited about it, but I thought I had a good time playing it. City Builder Ancient World. I really liked the game. It was a fun game, and I think this is another one where we only played like a basic version of the game. I think there's more going on if you look into it, but the art on the cards, the art on the tiles, it's a tile laying game, is really hard to parse. Even after playing it, looking at it, it's still like there's something about the artwork. I like the artwork a lot. The art style is awesome, but when it's on the you really have to pay close attention. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And in this one, you're each building your own little thing, so you don't really care what the other person's doing. You're just adding to your little doodad and putting houses down, and it's neat. It's a really, really neat game. We played Catherine, that's coming from Capstone Games, and I really enjoyed this game. I'm definitely going to pick it up when it comes out. It is a Euro resource management, hand management, route building. Like it's a little bit of everything. It's also none of those things. Everything I just said you can kind of ignore because it's more of like a sequencing activation type thing where you're trying to build a tableau, but you also have to activate that tableau, and you got to do it before time runs out, essentially before the round ends. You got to plan things out properly because you need the resources to activate the things and do the stuff. It's a really clever design. I really enjoyed that game a lot, and I will be picking it up. Cat in the Box, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal trick taking game. Basically spades, except all the cards in your hand. None of the cards in your hand have a suit, and when you play the card, you choose what suit it is because there's a board that you fill in the spot. So you play a 2, you say this is the 2 of hearts. Now nobody else can play the 2 of hearts or the 2 of red or whatever. They're just colors. And if you ever get to the end of the game and you can't play a card because all the colors are filled in, that causes what's called a paradox. And when a paradox happens, the hand ends immediately. You score 0 points, and everybody else gets whatever. I really, really love the game, and I want to own the game. The problem is, I don't think I'd ever get to play the game. It's brilliant, but I don't think I'll ever get to play it. But if you have a good group that likes to play trick takers, yeah, go for it. We played a whole bunch of games of Green Team Wins, and that is the most fun I've ever had playing a party game. It blew me away. It was really just a super simple premise, very easy to execute. People could come and go as they please. It was an awesome game. I really, really enjoyed the game. It caused a lot of conversation at the table about certain choices. Basically, you have a deck of cards that have multiple choice answers on them, or a fill in the blank. You flip it over, everybody writes something down. We reveal, and if you are part of the majority, you score points, or you are now on the green team. And once you're on the green team, you score points. Really, really clever game. I really enjoyed that one a lot. Have I said that enough? Don't Mess with Cthulhu, I think it's called. Is a social deduction game, kind of an older game that I got to play for the first time. As somebody who I don't like social deduction games. They bore me. This one was really interesting, and I think it's because it removes all of the stuff from the social deduction game, and it just puts it on some cards in front of you, and you put a thing down, and then you talk about it. It was really well done, really simple to play, but also really fun. Small Islands, another tile building. We played a lot of tile laying games. Small Islands is Carcassonne, but with a pretty big twist, and that you're trying to kind of there's a whole bunch of symbology on the tiles, and you're trying to build little islands that your scoring cards that are hidden, your scoring cards can trigger. So, like, if I'm trying to get an island that has a bunch of flowers on it, that's what I'm trying to build. Maybe you need an island that has more leaves than flowers, and so you're trying to put leaves on that island because you want to also score it. So a really neat little game it feels like Carcassonne, but it has a whole bunch more interaction because you're actively trying to each score your own hidden agendas on these tiles. Thought that was actually pretty great. Port Royal, another classic kind of older style game, a little bit like Ink and Gold, where you're push your luck style on flipping cards from the deck. If you get 2 of the same traps, in this case they're pirate ships, then you lose your turn, and then you get money, and you can buy cards that make it easier to take turns later on. I had a really good time playing that. I thought that was a fun game. I know there's some other games that we played. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what they are. I'll have to look. I'll be posting pictures. Most of these I posted to my Twitter. There's still some on my camera that I will post to Twitter at a later point. But I had a really good time. I played a lot of games. I don't normally get to do that. And like I said, the majority of those games, if somebody would ask me if I wanted to play it, I would have just said, nah, I'm good. I'll go play something else, and I've been trying really hard to turn that side of me off and just accept that maybe there are other things out there that I like and I need to give them a shot. So if you have any questions about any of those games, put them in the comments below. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know sounds smart is metaphor. It is a noun meaning a sentence or phrase in which a word ordinarily associated with one thing is applied to something else to indicate that in some way they are similar. If we are a metaphor of the universe, the human couple is the metaphor par excellence, the point of intersection of all forces and the seed of all forms. Octavio Paz Lozano, Mexican writer, poet, and diplomat. Metaphor, metaphor. I like to use a lot of metaphor when I write, probably too much.